Hi there, everybody. Final Fantasy Tactics was a huge part of my teenage years. I got it when I was 16 years old, and I've played through it probably like 100 times since, no exaggeration. I played the game like a million times. Well, maybe that is an exaggeration. But it's just so good. So when Square Enix announced the Final Fantasy Tactics Ivalice Chronicles, I was beyond excited. And then when they decided to actually gift me a copy for this coverage, I was ecstatic. And now, after beating it yet one more time, I can definitely say that this isn't just like a remaster, it is a heartfelt revival of a classic. And today, I do want to tell you all about it, and I definitely do think that's worth the sub as you come and you join my party and you level on up with me. With your sub, your like, and your brand new hype, it helps me out a ton. So now, let me go ahead and tell you all about what's new, what's changed, and what has remained the same in this fantastic remastering of a classic. Well, we've all been clamoring for a Final Fantasy Tactics remake for like the past 2 decades or so. We really haven't heard a peep from Square Enix about it. That is, until the Nvidia leak that occurred about, I don't know, 3 or so years ago, and ever since then, I've been waiting impatiently for this. But shockingly, one of the reasons why this game took so long was because the original source code was lost. But instead of letting that stop them, they turned to the community and they rebuilt the game, even consulting YouTube videos to ensure authenticity. I mean, that is some dedication. And then even after all that, they said that depending on how well this game sells, they might even port over the advanced games and even create like a Tactics 2. So I am like over the moon at this moment. I've got to say, I kind of assumed that everybody here has already played this game one time or another, but for any first-timers out there, let me just give you like a quick nuts and bolts of what's going on here. This is a turn-based strategy RPG where you fight with pretty much like a party of 5 against a multitude of enemies as you traverse Ivalice from behind the scenes. The main star of the show, though, are the job classes. You begin with your physical job, the Squire, and then your magical job, the Chemist. And each of those begin their respective job trees, with the Squire eventually branching off into the physical jobs like the Ninja, Samurai, Geomancer, and Lancer, and then on the other side of the coin, the Chemist branches off into Black and White Mages, Summoners, Oracles, and Time Mages, just to name a few. Building up your team composition and their synergy is the name of the game, but just like in Final Fantasy V, you can have a sub-job with you too. So for example, if you're a knight, you can also cast white magic if you trained them in that previously. Mixing and matching everybody's job together is really the core fun of the game. And I've got to say this too. Before Final Fantasy Tactics hit the scene, strategy RPGs were like the niche of the niche. But this one here single-handedly put the genre on the map in the same way that Final Fantasy VII kind of opened up the floodgates of the JRPGs. This game opened up the floodgates of the strategy RPGs with tons of cool PS1 strategy RPGs to follow in its footsteps. For all the veterans out there though, the Tactics game that you know and love is still here, but with tons of quality of life improvements. And I'm not just talking about, the full voice acting in English or Japanese, or the previously cut content making its way into the full version of the game. And I mean, while those things are nice, what I'm instead really talking about are those real, true, quality of life improvements that honestly make a difference in your enjoyment. Things like rebalancing the job classes, adding in 3 different difficulty modes, putting in fast travel and shop lists, so that you know what each town sells before you move on over there, and then crucially, allowing you to skip random battles while you are traversing the map. This makes it so you don't have to, fight like 20 million battles just whenever you want to go on down to a town to get some new weapons for your guys. Little things like that really do help out a ton. Other things were rebalanced too. The incredibly overpowered teleport got its JP cost adjusted, and many other balance tweaks were also thrown in too, to really help each job shine to the best of their abilities. And speaking of jobs, like the entire menu overhaul interface looks so much nicer and more beautiful and cleaner. Everything is just so much more intuitive to navigate, and it's very easy to see what jobs you have available to change into, and then what jobs you still need to work towards. Visually, the game looks much the same with its classic isometric grid and pixel art, but everything just looks so much more polished. The world map is more detailed, and character portraits are sharper. Battles are now fully voiced, including the battle dialogue, and the voice acting is top-notch. Having that little bird's eye viewpoint during battle is an absolute game changer. Not to mention being able to go back and redo your movements just in case you're like out of range for a spell or a bow and arrow attack or little things like that. Because all those things add up and just make all the difference in the world. And y'all remember that like CT gauge? That little thing that you had to go through like 20 frickin' different menus just to figure out whose turn was coming up next in the original game? Well, no more. Now the timeline of events is fully on the screen, and all the information that you need is right at your fingertips, which does make casting spells and like charge attacks and things like that so much nicer and quicker to do. Then there's that ever useful fast forward button. You can fast forward through both your enemies and your allies' turns, greatly speeding things along, especially those grindy-ass JP battles that you have to do on Mandalia Plains. You know why you have to grind, viewers. You know why. Although I will say this, they did tone down, that one battle quite a bit, so the grind isn't as terrible as it was before, I guess unless you're playing on the highest difficulty level. So, yeah. As I alluded to before, the game does include some previously cut content, like the Nanai's History short stories, and they are available in English for the first time. There's also a new Treasure Hunter rank that tracks your earnings and bonuses from expeditions, adding in some more depth to the gameplay. Then for the purists, there are two options to choose from. The enhanced version offers all the modern improvements, the voice acting, the updated UI, the new difficulty modes, and all that kind of good stuff, whereas the classic version does stay true to the original, preserving the graphics and gameplay as they always were. So whether you're a newcomer or a veteran, there is a version here for you to enjoy. What I love most about this game though is just how it treats you as an adult. It doesn't hold your hand, and it doesn't repeat itself endlessly. It trusts that you have a brain in your head, and that you can figure things out on your own, that you can make your own mistakes and you can learn from those mistakes. The story is rich and complex, dealing with themes of class, power, and betrayal. And it is as relevant today as it was when it was first released. So, after all these years, here's the big question. Does Final Fantasy Tactics still hold up? Abso-frickin-lutely it does. The Ivalice Chronicles is not just like a trip down memory lane, it is a revitalization of a masterpiece. So whether you're here to revisit Ivalice, or you're here to experience it for the first time, this here is a must-play for any fan of the genre. So if you're as excited as I am, do not wait. Grab Final Fantasy Tactics The Ivalice Chronicles using the links in the description and pinned comment below to support it physically, and hopefully support a Final Fantasy Tactics 2, or the advanced games coming out, supporting something from this franchise after 30 frickin' years. I want it, and I want it bad. So if you enjoyed this review, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content just like this. Your support means the world to me, and as always, have a good day, but in Ivalice. Square Enix instead turned to the community and then rebuilt the game using But instead of letting all that stop them, they instead turned to the community and they rebuilt the game using fan-maintained. But instead of letting that stop them, they turned to the community and they rebuilt the game using fan